Well, this might be regarded as an exercise in futility, but I thought that maybe, well, given from the reaction to the last video and how it seems people are interested in more content related to Har-Bal Harmonic Balancer, I was thinking in regard to what I've actually read on the web, basically that when it comes to the loudness wars, the Metallica album Death Magnetic is, or seems to be regarded as the pinnacle of the loudness wars, pinnacle of stupidity perhaps, and probably one of the least liked Metallica albums because of the excess use of loudness maximization, the essential bricking of the recording. I thought it might be worthwhile using a track from that as an illustration of what can be achieved with Har-Bal Harmonic Balancer once recording has essentially been destroyed. Is that the right word? I don't know. But essentially, basically, I asked Gemini, at the outset, I'll say I'm not a Metallica fan. I don't have Metallica albums in my CD collection. That's probably partly due to their preferential style of, which is probably true of a lot of metal, hollowing out the mid-range of guitars, which I don't particularly like. I just find it rather unpleasant to listen to. It doesn't do anything for me, and it loses a lot of definition because of it. So that's partly the reason. Partly I'm not that interested in the style of the music, but so from that perspective, because I don't actually have the album, what I actually did was I went to YouTube to basically rip a performance from, well, like an uploaded performance of one of the tracks from that album from YouTube. But I used Gemini to actually try and find information about which tracks on that particular album were least liked. And I think one of the ones that it came up with that I decided to use is the track by the name of Cyanide. So yeah, essentially this video is centered around what can be done to improve the sonic quality, well, to my ear, obviously, of that recording post its ultimate release and ultimate mastering, which wasn't particularly well received by the fans at the time because of the, well, I think largely because of the bricking of the volume in the track. So I can actually show you the link of where I've got it from. Let's see. So if I go to my browser, this is basically the link that I took the video from. Well, actually it's not a video, it's just, well, it's a video, but it's just a music. It's essentially just the music with a static image of this. And yeah, I captured it with OBS Studio and then extracted the audio from it and then used that. As such, it's not a perfect reflection of what might be on the album, because obviously it's an MP4 format, so it's compressed. And there's also a couple of glitches in my recording from I don't know, one glitch right at the beginning where it pauses for a second. I'm not sure why. And right at the end, there's a notification tone in the recording, unfortunately. But if I now switch to Har-Bal Harmonic Balancer, and I'll put my headphones on so I can tell what I'm actually talking about. So what you see here in Har-Bal Harmonic Balancer is, just before I do that, I shall minimize OBS Studio because I don't want to see the meters going in the background. So yeah, what you see here, obviously because it's from YouTube source, the volume isn't, although it's bricked, as you see from the level trace here, the timeline trace. It's definitely a bricked recording, but it's not at full scale because it's come from a YouTube video, and the whatever the broadcast level standard on YouTube is not obviously that loud. It's been lowered in volume, so that's why it's actually lower than that. So in terms of the spectrum, you see the light grey and dark grey corresponding to the peak spectrum and average spectrum of the original track, and the green and the yellow are my modified versions of that track. And how I actually did it, if you actually look at the frequency response tab for the outer filter, like the overarching filter, there's nothing there. It's flat. Now the reason why I've got this difference in spectrum is if you look here in the timeline, there's a whole bunch of track split points here. It's actually over 40, which is why it's a futile effort, if you regard, because it takes a lot of effort to do this. And you're going to ask yourself, why have I done that? Well, the fundamental reason I've split it up is I've split it up into thematic changes within the track itself, specifically so that I can try and restore some of the performance dynamics to the recording, because it's been completely bricked. There's absolutely no dynamics in there whatsoever, and the only way you can really restore some sense of musical dynamic to it is to, in a reliable fashion as far as I'm concerned, is to basically split it up on thematic lines and then alter the volume of each of those different sections. How you do it is largely just judging by ear. I think I've done a rather conservative one. I could probably have created a greater range, but obviously, like, you've got 40 segments there. It's and you need to juggle levels so that it all sounds sonically consistent across the entire track. So you can imagine it's a lot of work to try and sort this whole thing out. In total, I probably spent about 2 hours or 2.5 hours on this, doing it, mainly because of the fact that not that the spectrum modification was difficult. That's relatively straightforward. It's just the process of, one, creating all the thematic splits in the entire timeline. That took a substantial amount of time. Then you got a relatively, because there's so many segments, it's a relatively long process to do the filtering for all of those, 40, because it's basically the time you take for one multiplied by 40, because there's 40, well, not quite 40, because I can use reference in and copy in and filter responses from segment to segment, but it's still a substantial amount of time because not all of the, obviously not all of the segments are comparable in terms of what content that they contain. So in that sense, doing a full copy across all segments of the one reference doesn't really work. You sort of end up with quite a few different reference strategies you use. So, and then the final part of the puzzle is the actual adjustment of gains within segments to try and bring back some of the dynamics and not make it sound like volume discontinuous, if you understand what I'm trying to get at. So for instance, if I look at the opening, you can see, well, the gain level here, I've got it boosted because to make up for some degree to, actually I'll go back to the reference. It's basically boosted to make up for some of that loss of the volume from the fact that it's come from YouTube. So you can see the outer overarching filter level is 7. The inner one in this case is 7. So you see it's basically the same level. If I move on to the next segment, if I remember how to drive my software, so we're still 7 there. I haven't modified it there, but now it's gone up to 8.5, so I've added 1.5 dB, 8.6, a little bit more, 8.6, 8.9, added a bit more, 7.7, dropped down, 8.7, etc., etc., 8.9. So you see I vary the levels within these thematic parts to alter it. Now as far as talking about the spectrum modification, again, if you look through most of my segments, I haven't used peak taming at all. I have used it in very specific cases, usually tied up with the vocal. I'm trying to think of where an example is, but most of the time it's just static filtering within segment. Can I find an example of where I've used peak taming? There, for instance, there's a case, because there's this massive vocal peak. Tame that. So that's pretty much it in terms of the filtering. In terms of discussion of the alteration, you can see in the original spectrum it's very much hollowed out in the mid-range, which is the sound that I particularly don't like. It's got quite a bit of peaking in, I think it's a bass guitar part there, which makes the bass guitar sound rather boxy to me. And the kick drum lowest frequency output seems to be pretty low in the mix. The other thing that's really low in the mix is the cymbals, basically. So that tends to get lost. So as a result of that, it sounds very muffled to me, the original. So I've basically just boosted the mid-range, controlled the peaks, made it more uniform, and boosted the top end to bring out the cymbals, and boosted the kick bass as well, and cut out any infrasonic noise, basically from vibrating mic stands or whatever you have when they're recording the drums. And that's essentially it. Now, what's my justification for that? Well, principally I wanted it to sound good to my ears so I could enjoy it, because the original track I don't enjoy at all. But although it's not the same style of music, I can give you an illustration of a reference from a commercial recording, which is actually more from grunge rather than metal, which is Black Hole Sun, basically, by Soundgarden, which is from their most popular and most selling album, Super Unknown. And it was the main, or the first single off the album as far as I remember. But if you look at that, let's see, I'll get rid of that one for a start. So now the dark yellow and dark green are the Black Hole Sun track. And if you look at that, you can see that's got very uniform content across the mid-range. It's got a drooping top end, but that's only in the average, because if you look in the peak, it isn't drooping. It only droops above, I don't know, about 13K, and I think that's possibly because it's been recorded on analog tape, so it's got tape loss associated with it. The reason why the average droops, because if you remember the construction of that particular song, Black Hole Sun, it has large parts where the cymbals are completely absent, so there's no cymbals in there. So within the context of the entire track, of course the top end averages pretty low because the cymbals aren't actually playing much. It's only in the loud parts where the cymbals come into it. So I could argue that the reason why Super Unknown, in terms of their album, was the most widely sold, was because of the sonic qualities of that album compared to the other ones. Not only that, I also watched a Rick Beato interview of Matt Cameron, the drummer, about his work with Soundgarden, and lo and behold, Matt Cameron's favorite album in terms of how it portrays his drumming is Super Unknown. So there's something to be said for having a uniform mid-range. If you want an alternate reference from the same album, there's also 4th of July that I copied over to have a look. And again, it's probably not quite as uniform, but it's still, if you compare it to what's in this, it's much more uniform than what's in Cyanide. So what does this all sound like? I can actually show you that now. So it's, I don't know, I can guess I start from anywhere. I'll start from the start, basically.
your name. Ooh, call your name. Suicide, I've already died. You're just a funeral I've been waiting for. Cyanide, living dead inside. Break this empty shell forevermore. Wait patiently. Your death-like wings, unfolding slave, spreading on me. Empty, they say. Death, won't you let me stay? Empty, they say. Death, hear me call your name. Ooh, call your name. Suicide, I've already died. You're just a funeral I've been waiting for. Cyanide, living dead inside. Break this empty shell forevermore. Say, is that rain or are they tears that stained your concrete face for years? The crying weep. Say, is that rain or are they tears that stained your concrete face for years? The crying, weeping, shedding.
So that's probably enough of an illustration of what's going on in there, particularly in the last bit that I looped around. I hope it's quite obvious that there's a sort of really boxy sound to the bass guitar. It's like cabinet resonances or something like that, or something to do with the way it's mic'd and probably compressed. Plus also the toms are really heavily resonant around the fundamental. Doesn't show much of the upper harmonics of the drum strikes. So they sound a bit monotonal to me. The other thing that's quite obvious is the it's not purely confined to the vocal. The vocal is much clearer, but also the what's actually going on in the guitar parts is quite a bit clearer as well, owing to this boost in the mid-range plus the boost in the top end. And particularly there's a lot more clarity in the cymbals as well. So you could probably leave it at that, but the other thing to note about this recording is it's quite dead in terms of added reverb. It's a pretty dry recording, so you can also potentially improve it a little bit by adding some reverb. Although I guess that's based on personal opinion, but certainly if you're listening to it on headphones, it's probably benefit from a little bit of reverb added to it, because you don't have that natural reflection or reflected sound coming into the play that you would with loudspeakers to add that sort of effect to it. there was something else I was going to mention. I'm trying to think of what it was. Yeah, that's right. Although when I was toggling the EQ in and out through this, although you're genuinely hearing the effective EQ changes between the raw and my modified, what doesn't get toggled by toggling the EQ are the segmented gain changes. So those segmented gain changes are added to the original there. So because of that, that actually improves the sound quality of the original track. So i.e. when I've got the EQ toggled off, because it's adding some level of dynamism to it that isn't there in the original. So from that perspective, it's actually reducing the sonic differences between the two. It doesn't reflect the true differences between them. So now if I switch over to my Cubase session, which is here, you can clearly see there is differences in the timeline, because this is, and I've normalized the volume to be, or the average level for both tracks to be the same using Har-Bal Harmonic Balancer basically. But if you look at it, maybe I'll expand this out a little bit. No, the other way. Yeah. So you can definitely see that my volume alteration has added some dynamism that's completely lacking in, or largely lacking in, the original bricked track. Another thing to note, which I find particularly interesting, which would also probably explain some of the negative sentiment about the original bricked recording, is if you look through the timeline of this entire bricked track, note all these peaks, these sharp peaks. What they are basically digital overs, essentially, because this track is being reconstructed from an MP3 file that's been compressed. That process of reconstruction, going from compressed format to 44.1, and because of the quality of the limiter that was used to actually limit that material in the first instance, has resulted in these digital overs. Essentially, what are digital overs? Because you can imagine that the 0 dB level, if I were to draw it, actually goes below those peaks. So that would cause significant, or it won't necessarily cause, but has the potential, because it's all dependent on the type of converter and whether that digital to analog converter has analog or reconstruction headroom in it to actually be able to create levels greater than 0 dB. Most of them don't. Some of them do. So if you're playing it back on something that isn't capable of reproducing those reconstructed overs, it will result in clipping distortion, and that will actually make it sound harsh and rather unpleasant. And this all stems from the quality of the limiter that was used to do the bricking in the first place. So clearly it wasn't a particularly good one, because there's a hell of a lot of digital overs in there. That was just an aside, but anyway, looking at the timeline, you can definitely see that, like, particularly in this breakdown region here, there is a definite change in levels there. brought about by my manipulation of the track. And now if I do a comparative playback of that particular section, I'll put the looping on. Let's start with the original. I'll start with the original. There you can hear the reverb tail when I stopped it that I've actually added. It's basically just in here. Oops, no, that's the limiter, sorry. So there you go. I made it a modest but not large size, and modest but not large RT60, and modest discrete early reflections, slightly less than my default. And I did have limiter in both cases. So if I looked at here, you see you've got limiter, should be exactly the same settings. It's basically there to make the signal path between that case and that case the same, but I need the limiter here because of the presence of the synthetic space that can result in large transients that exceed 0 dB. So that's why that's there, to account for that. And that's pretty much it. I can attest to the fact that I really didn't enjoy listening to the the raw track when I was actually searching for the Metallica track to actually do this video on. I just found it really unpleasant to listen to. It didn't appeal to me at all. But interestingly enough, after completing this change and playing it through, I actually quite enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. So I could always almost say that yes, I like Metallica, but obviously I don't like it in the original state. But in this, presented in this manner, I do like the sound of that track. So much so that I was actually the other day preparing lunch for myself and humming along the various guitar melodies. So it obviously caught on. And just so that you can get the complete impression of the track, modified, maybe for the fans' sake, I'll play that whole thing through without toggling, so you'll get the full impression, including my glitch at the beginning. There's one glitch up here, and this peak here corresponds to a notification bell on my computer at the time. So I'll just play it through.
year after year, life after life. An air of freshly broken ground, a concrete angel lit right down upon the grave which swallows fast. It's peace at last, oh peace at last.
So there you go. That's basically my take on Metallica. Whether you like it or hate it, that's entirely your opinion, as it is mine. I'm easy either way. I'll leave it at that.